Bangladesh and Nepal have deep ties. We need to increase people-to-people engagement. I'm extremely happy that when I came here day before yesterday, I saw so many Bangladeshi tourists. So this is a lovely, one of the most beautiful countries.
Right now, sir, actually most of the countries are facing like a recession type, and there is war between Ukraine and Russia. Is there any impact? And if what type of challenges are your countries facing, and what steps are taken by government to mitigate them? Can you just give me a little bit overview of this scenario?
We have a similar situation. It has had impacts on growth. It has impacts on some banks. As you know, there are two famous cases of banks collapsing there, which has had an impact on banking everywhere, including Europe and here as well.
Yeah. Okay. Sir, as we all know that Sri Lanka faces some trouble in economic situation, and I think they are reviving now. As a neighbor country, what should we learn from Sri Lankan economic crisis so that we will not face the similar type of crisis? Do you have anything to say?
Banking Serophero का साथमा
Nepal Bank Limited, Nepal को पहिलो बैंक, Pioneer Bank with complete banking solution.
संतान को विश्वास आमा, आमा को विश्वास गरिमा, गरिमा विकास बैंक, access to all.
सबैको सुरक्षा एनएलजी को इच्छा, एनएलजी इन्स्योरेन्स कम्पनी लिमिटेड.
Dear viewers, welcome to the program Banking Serophero, the only typical banking program of Nepalese television industry. Dear viewers, today we are going to present you the Managing Director and CEO of Meghna Bank Limited, Bangladesh, Mr. Sohail R.K Hussain. Let us welcome Mr. Sohail in the program Banking Serophero. Sir, very good morning and namaste.
Good morning to you as well, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, we are very pleased to have you here in our program, sir. How was your staying in Nepal?
Lovely, lovely. It's been many years since I've been back here, and my visit is part of a joint International Finance Corporation, the National Banking Institute.
Okay.
I was a speaker. We shared experiences on corporate governance and ESG and other things. It was very interesting. I enjoyed myself, and I think the participants also enjoyed themselves. We had a lot of things to share. Very productive discussion.
Okay, that's great to know, sir. So I'd like to start the formal program with one very general question. How is the overall economic situation of Bangladesh right now, sir? Actually, most of the countries are facing like a recession type, and there is war between Ukraine and Russia. Is there any impact? And if what type of challenges are your countries facing, and what steps are taken by government to mitigate them? Can you just give me a little bit overview of this scenario?
I think like many of the countries in this region, and I was looking at Nepal as well, we have a similar situation. Our exports have done well. They're growing, although based on the situation in Europe and USA, where there are still some lingering thoughts of recession. Orders have slowed down, but there is still growth. So normally where you would see 9 to maybe 12% growth, we are seeing 5 to 6% growth, and I think that is just caution on the part of the buyers. The bigger issue for us is inflation. The other thing is the exchange rate. The interest rates, as you know, the US Fed has been increasing interest rates to manage inflation in their country. You had one of the highest inflation rates in the last 20 years in USA. It had moved to around almost 8%. The US federal rate, Fed's interest rates has climbed from 0.05% to now it's around almost 5%. So that's a significant jump.
Yes.
And it has had impacts on growth. It has impacts on some banks. As you know, there are two famous cases of banks collapsing there, which has had an impact on banking everywhere, including Europe and here as well. For us, the right balance between, in this new paradigm, what should be the exchange rate? So the central bank has been very cautious. In Bangladesh, our central bank, as we call it, Bangladesh Bank, has been managing the exchange rate. Previously, exchange rates in Bangladesh have been floating. So now we work within certain cooperation between the Association of Bankers as well as the central bank, and we manage the rates accordingly. There's been a lot of, there's been a record number of people going abroad for work in 2022 as well as 23. And as you know, Bangladesh, to some extent like Nepal, we also depend upon remittance from our NRB, non-resident workers. So it is a fine balance to ensure that we get the highest amount of foreign exchange through official channels. There's an informal channel as well.
So that is one of the challenges in the developing countries.
Exactly. And so there is always this thing about how we can reduce the amount of money going through the informal channel so that it becomes part of the official reserve. So the challenge is still there. Like your central bank, our central bank also took strong administrative steps to reduce imports. Our peak in import in the first quarter and second quarter of 2022 was around $9.5 billion per month. The central bank, through measures and working with the scheduled banks like my bank, we have cut it down to about between $5 to $6 billion. That has led to our positive trade balance. That has led to a positive current account, although it took a little while. But there are other factors as well. On the financial accounts, which is when the country takes, the private sector takes loans from abroad, with the rise of the interest rates and the possibility of depreciation of the currency, international loans or loans in US dollar are no longer competitive. So on the financial accounts where we used to see large inflows, that has reduced. So, but the balance of payments shortfall in the last fiscal year, our fiscal year is from July to June, bit like yours, but
it starts from the July.
Exactly, exactly. So we see the situation as improving. Before the crisis, our for FX reserves had hit about 45 billion, was going up. Today it's around 32 billion and stabilizing around that. So we are hopeful that we'll be able to reverse this situation. The inflation, which is now around 8 to 9%, remains a worry. You'll see that in India, the inflation rate has come down.
Yes.
Even in Sri Lanka, the inflation rate has started reducing.
Yeah.
International commodity prices have gone down, although with the current disagreement on the grain exports from Ukraine, there might be some continuing effects of that. So, and you've all seen that Saudi Arabia, OPEC have cut production of oil and gas. So there are energy costs will remain a little volatile.
Yeah.
So under these circumstances, the steps which we're taking does indeed result in growth reducing for a while.
Okay.
So we've been used to, especially in the last 10 years, we've been used to GDP growth around 7 to 8%, 7.5%. I think it would be, for us right now, 6.5%.
Okay.
Anything above 5% would be good. The last fiscal year, we were around 4.5% to 5%. So I think for the next 2 years, until the international situation, the supply chain disruptions have mostly been settled. The post-COVID demand, the rush of demand which started the supply chain situation, we believe that that has been addressed. Freight charges has increased, but we think that is something which the market will adjust in a few years.
Okay. Sir, what do you see, what are the challenges in between Nepal and Bangladesh in strengthening the economic ties between two countries from the perspective of financial services? Do you see any challenges? And can we develop some strategic link in between two countries for the betterment of economy and financial services?
I would certainly say so, but to begin with, first of all, Nepal has for a long time has been a friend of Bangladesh.
Yes.
And Nepal, within the hearts of all Bangladeshis, we remember when we had our War of Liberation in 1971, Nepal was one of the earlier countries who recognized Bangladesh.
Yes.
So that's something which Bangladesh feel very strongly about, that we have many things in common. You have a beautiful country. There are areas where we can invest in. There are areas currently, Nepal-Bangladesh bilateral trade is not very large. It's about 80 million or something. It tends to be more agricultural products. You have but I think even those can be expanded. What we need to do is to expand the linkages between Nepal and Bangladesh. So multi-mode transport of goods and services. So the recent progress within at the border crossing through India, I think that is resulting in a gradual increase in bilateral trade. I believe the governments have also worked out the details for Nepal shipping goods through our Mongla port, which is again good for both countries.
Both the countries.
The rail line links, the talks there have, I think, almost been finalized. So the transit corridors are now being almost finalized. So it provides Nepal another alternative to exports, not only to Bangladesh but elsewhere as well. And within Bangladesh, there are many areas such as your hydroelectric power is something which is of interest to us.
Okay.
Climate change is one of the things which is going to affect both our countries. For Bangladesh, it's a serious country and a serious challenge, and the government takes it extremely seriously. So we are working on that, and hydroelectric power is clean. So if we can work something out there, I believe there is a G2G program with the government regarding this 636 megawatt hydroelectric power project. We have large power companies. So I believe there is interest in investing in those. On other scales, there are things which are done in Nepal, which is unparalleled, like your Pashmina. I'm a customer. I bought a few, quite a few yesterday. And jute goods and other things which we can look at. On our side, we also have electronics, particle board, etc. So whenever these business ties starts happening, banks play a role. So our roles are facilitating business through payment systems, and we already have payment systems with Nepali banks. So we have settlement arrangements with them. We're all part of SWIFT. So that is something which we could immediately help them with. We provide advisory services regarding Nepalese laws, Nepalese tax, customs arrangements, and similarly the Nepali banks also have an idea about the Bangladesh environment. And I see a lot of business travel between the two countries. Yesterday, the hotel where I'm staying in, I saw two groups of very large Bangladeshi companies. One was a company named ACI, one was a company named, I think, Abul Khair. So these are all, I think, positive signs. And from Nepal, I met one of your digital companies, and I was very impressed with their operation, the size of their operation, the professionalism they were showing, and hopefully we can work something out for them to work with us in Bangladesh.
Okay. So, sir, are there any collaboration or partnership like between the financial institutions of Bangladesh and Nepal in enhancing the financial cooperation and coordination? Are there any, or are there in pipeline? Any?
Okay. You may know that we had a bank which had invested in I think they have a 7 to 8% share in possibly Nabil Bank. So I think Bangladesh, once this current crisis is over, I would be interested to look into participating in financial institutions in Bangladesh. That's something which other banks will look at. Digital is very interesting. What I saw over there with a population of around 30 million, you already have about 25 million wallets. And the amount of transactions per day is quite significant. I think it was around almost $100 million. So that is something which we are interested in because we're doing the same thing. So you will see digital fintech companies here tying up with Bangladeshi financial institutions. Similarly, in the same meeting, I also met some banks who were talking about buying softwares, core banking platforms from Bangladesh as well. And this is an area where our joint experiences can help deliver better results. On the remittance side, I was really impressed with how remittances are being managed here through digital. We've started doing the same thing back in Bangladesh. So obviously with 170 million people in Bangladesh, it's a larger market, but the 30 million population over here, are very used to digital wallet transactions. So we call it mobile financial services over there. Wallet transactions are, I think, Nepal is playing an important and significant role.
Yes, definitely.
And we would like to leverage that.
Okay, fine. So, sir, as we are now, our banking system is facing excess of loanable fund. As you have a very vast experience in banking sector, our liquidity position, let's say a loanable fund, is very much volatile. 3-4 months ago, there was a extreme crisis of loanable fund, and now there is excess of loanable fund. What your experience and what do you suggest? How can we just stable this type of volatility in liquidity, loanable fund? Do you have anything to suggest?
Again, similar situations in Bangladesh as well. So basically, when you have inflation going up, the traditional solutions is depreciate your currency, increase interest rates. And the whole idea is to slow down credit growth, slow down growth, GDP growth. When you do that, it's painful in the sense that your business community has invested and they've built up capacity, which means their capacity will come down, prices will go up. None of the steps are popular. But if you want to bring about a balance, it is something which needs to be strongly looked at. So we in Bangladesh face very similar debates to what I've seen, although I have to admit that I've been here for only one day. But the debates I see here are not dissimilar from Bangladesh. The business community are asking for measures which allows them to grow GDP. But those efforts in turn requires imports, in terms requires supplies of raw materials, which in turn leads to deterioration in the foreign exchange position. So if we want to keep the dollar taka rate within a certain range and not have huge inflation going forward, it's already high. This is a period both countries, in my opinion, need to manage and overcome. We just need to go through this period. And I believe the potential, because the demand for workers from here, from Bangladesh, is rising. The quality is rising. The export markets, there is export potential, but you're going and this is one of those cycles.
It just goes on.
It just goes on. And yes, the Ukraine war will put another volatility on top of everything.
So, sir, as you are the CEO and MD of one of the reputed bank of Bangladesh, what type of roles can you and your organization play to those businesses which are planning to expand, looking forward to expand the business in Bangladesh, Nepali businesses, and vice versa? Your organization and you can particularly do anything? Do you have
the first thing is when businesses from one country goes to another country, they want to know about the legal system, they want to know about the market size, market dynamics, fundamentals, etc. like that. Banks are very well set up to advise customers on those, where you can invest, how do you go through the process of that. So On the advisory side, our bank is extremely strong. We have a dedicated desk for that. Of course, the government also has their own one-stop service desk. So that's one. The second thing is that we have EPZs, export processing zones, or economic zones, where everything is set up, which is you have factories, you have buildings, you have utilities, you have connections, and you have tax benefits. And you have workers who live close by. So I would think that for bilateral trade to increase, that just makes it easier for the businesses, because if they are satisfied with the market, if they are satisfied with their ability to have a profitable operation there, then just going into a set factory is much easier. And from what I've seen here in Nepal, that similar initiatives like that could be useful. But I'm sure the government is already thinking about these things, and they are probably in the best position to know.
Okay. Sir, as we all know that Sri Lanka faces some trouble in economic situation, and I think they are reviving now. As a neighbor country, what should we learn from Sri Lankan economic crisis so that we will not face the similar type of crisis? Do you have anything to say regarding this?
Sri Lanka is a unique situation where a multitude of factors impacted. I would say the issues started from 2019, not just in 2022 when the Prime Minister announced that the economy had collapsed. The seeds of the decision making there started then. A lot of debt. If you look into Sri Lanka's external debt, it was around 70% of GDP, and then over the last decade, it moved to 120%. The impact of the pandemic on their tourist business, the decisions to shift to 100% organic farming, the reduction of subsidy to the farming community, and something else which to some extent this is a word which we use, vanity projects. Very large vanity projects. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that the port done by the Chinese or the airport, but there's a lot of debate, discussion around which are vanity projects. Simply put, Sri Lanka had so much external debt as well as domestic debt that when you had a situation, there was also tax cuts done by the Rajapakse regime. So there was a lot of mismanagement there, and mismanagements can be everywhere. I think underestimating the crises which would come forward, the rise in interest rates, the conflict in Ukraine, the fears of recession in USA, in Europe, the consequent actions by them, all of this together had what you call a perfect storm for them. So the foreign exchange reserves fell to almost nothing. They are one of the first countries in this part of the world in a long time to have a sovereign default. So in 2022, they defaulted on their 1 billion sovereign fund. Then they have decided not to pay their international loans, they can't. And I think that's understood. But India has provided them a line of credit. China has done something on a smaller scale.
Yes.
They've also worked with them to reschedule some of their loans. Even from Bangladesh, we had a currency swap, which was about $500 million. So Sri Lanka's recovery is taking place. So we expect to see, although it's not going back to pre-pandemic levels, and we're talking about very small amounts, about, I think the current reserve is...
They are in a reviving phase.
Yes, $3 billion. But then again, that's a very small number, but it's positive.
So, sir, at last, do you have anything to say to the viewers who are watching this program?
Bangladesh and Nepal have deep ties. We need to increase people-to-people engagement. I'm extremely happy that when I came here day before yesterday, I saw so many Bangladeshi tourists. So this is a lovely, one of the most beautiful countries you could have, and you have so much to offer. And we want to partner with you, we want to participate with you in your projects, we want to be friends, and we want to be visitor here. And I think the government has made many of the processes much easier.
Okay, thank you so very much for your valuable time once again, sir.
Thank you.
Dear viewers, as our interaction concludes with the Managing Director and CEO of Meghna Bank Limited, Bangladesh, we have come to the end of the program. Until we meet next week, give us a leave. Have a wonderful and productive time ahead. Thank you and namaste.
बैंकिङ सेरोफेरोका साथमा
नेपाल बैंक लिमिटेड, नेपालको पहिलो बैंक, पाइनियर बैंक विथ कम्प्लिट बैंकिङ सोल्युसन।
सन्तानको विश्वास आमा, आमाको विश्वास गरिमा, गरिमा विकास बैंक, एक्सेस टु ऑल।
सबैको सुरक्षा एनएलजी को इच्छा, एनएलजी इन्स्योरेन्स कम्पनी लिमिटेड।